Everyone, welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books right here in the live studios in Hythe, the Haven. We hope you're all well and safe and happy in all respects as much as you can be under the circumstances. Winter's coming on. The pandemic is surging. Now there is a vaccine being rolled out here in UK for the first time, the first country that's rolling it out. So let's see what's going to happen. But when we're reading Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, it all kind of recedes into the distant background like a foggy memory, and we become happy. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur left us this beautiful poetic glorification of Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. He said, in due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Sri Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or, if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam, but under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after the flood has subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, here we are. Chapter 24, Madhya-lila. The Lord is explaining the famous verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, the Ätmäräma verse. We're beginning with text 116. By the mercy of Srila Vyasadeva, Shukadeva Goswami was attracted by the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Being thus attracted by Krishna's transcendental qualities, he also became a devotee and engaged in his service. 117. Being very much attracted by the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, the mind of Srila Shukadeva Goswami was agitated by Krishna consciousness. He therefore began to study Srimad Bhagavatam by the grace of his father. Purport. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.11. From their very births, the 9 great mystic yogis, yogendras, were impersonal philosophers of the absolute truth. But because they had heard about Lord Krishna's pastimes from Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the great sage Narada, they also became Krishna's devotees. 119. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a full description of the devotional service of the 9 yogendras, who rendered devotional service because they were attracted by the Lord's transcendental qualities. Text 120. The 9 yogendras entered Lord Brahma's association and heard from him the real meaning of the topmost Vedic literatures, the Upanishads. Although the yogendras were already conversant in Vedic knowledge, they became very jubilant in Krishna consciousness just by listening to Brahma. Thus they wanted to enter Dwarka, the abode of Lord Krishna. In this way they finally achieved the place known as Rangakshetra. Purport: this is a quotation from the Maha Upanishad. 121. Those who wish to merge into the impersonal Brahman are also divided into three categories: those desiring to be liberated, those already liberated, and those who have realized Brahman. 122. There are many people within this material world who desire liberation, and for this purpose they render devotional service to Lord Krishna. 123. Mumukshavo Gora Rupan Hitva Bhutapatim Mata Narayana Kalakshanta Bhajanti Yanasuyavaha. Those who want to be relieved from the material clutches give up the worship of the various demigods who have fearful bodily features. Such peaceful devotees, who are not envious of the demigods, worship the different forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. Purport: this is a quotation from the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.26. Those who actually want the highest perfection worship Lord Vishnu in his different incarnations. Those who are attracted to the materialistic way of life and who are always agitated and full of anxiety worship demigods who appear fierce, demigods like goddess Kali and Kala Bhairava, Rudra. The devotees of Krishna, however, do not envy the demigods or their worshippers, but peacefully render devotional service to the incarnations of Narayana instead. Text 124. If those who are attached to demigod worship fortunately associate with the devotees, their dormant devotional service and appreciation of the Lord's qualities gradually awaken. In this way, they also engage in Krishna's devotional service and give up the desire for liberation and the desire to merge into the existence of impersonal Brahman. Purport: the four Kumaras, Chatukshana, Shukadev Goswami, and the 9 Yogendras were absorbed in Brahman realization, and how they became devotees is described herein. There are 3 kinds of impersonalists: the mumukshu, those desiring liberation; the jivan muktas, those liberated in this life; and the prapta sarupas, those merged in Brahman realization. All these types of jnanis are called moksha-kandi, moksha-kankshis, those desiring liberation. By associating with devotees, such people give up the mumukshu principle and render devotional service. The real cause for this change is the association of devotees. The Krishna consciousness movement is meant to attract all types of men, even those who desire things other than the Lord's devotional service. Through the association of devotees, they gradually begin to render devotional service. Text 125. O great learned devotee, although there are many faults in this material world, there is one good opportunity: the association with devotees. Such association brings about great happiness. Due to this good quality, our strong desire to achieve liberation by merging into the Brahman effulgence has become weakened. Purport: this is a quotation from the Hari Bhakti Sudodaya, 126. By associating with the great sage Narada, Shonaka and the other great sages gave up the desire for liberation and engaged in Krishna's devotional service. 127. Simply by meeting Krishna or receiving Krishna's special favor, one can give up the desire for liberation. Being attracted by the transcendental qualities of Krishna, one can engage in his service. 128. In this Dwarkadam, I am being attracted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is personified spiritual bliss. Simply by seeing him, I am feeling great happiness. Oh, I have wasted so much time trying to become self-realized through impersonal cultivation. This is a cause for lamentation. Purport. This verse is found in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 3.1.34. Text 129. There are many people who are liberated even in this lifetime. Some are liberated by discharging devotional service, and others are liberated through the philosophical, speculative process. 130. Those who are liberated by devotional service become more and more attracted by the transcendental qualities of Krishna. Thus they engage in his service. Those who are liberated by the speculative process eventually fall down again due to offensive activity. Ye nye ravindakshi vimukti maninas tvayasta bhavad avishuddha buddhayaha aruya krichtrena padam padam tata padam tyado nadricha yushmad angrayaha. O lotus-eyed one, those who think they are liberated in this life but are without devotional service to you are of impure intelligence. Although they accept severe austerities and penances and rise to the spiritual position, to impersonal Brahman realization, they fall down again because they neglect to worship your lotus feet. Purport. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2.32. Text 132. Brahma bhutak prasanatma nashochati nakankshati samak sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. Purport. This is a quotation from the Bhagavad Gita 18:54. Text 133. Although I was worshipped by those on the path of monism and initiated into self-realization through the yoga system, I have nonetheless been forcibly returned into a maidservant by some cunning boy who was always joking with the gopis. Purport. This is a verse written by Bilvamangal Thakur. Text 134. One who has attained his constitutional position by the strength of devotional service attains a transcendental body even in this lifetime. Being attracted by Lord Krishna's transcendental qualities, he fully engages in service at his lotus feet. Text 135. The living entities and other potencies merge into Mahavishnu as the Lord lies down and winds up, destroys the cosmic manifestation. Liberation means being situated in one's eternal, original form after giving up the changeable gross and subtle bodies. Purport. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 2.10.6, 136. By opposing Krishna consciousness, one becomes conditioned and fearful due to the influence of Maya. By executing devotional service faithfully, one is liberated from Maya. 137. Bhayam dvitiya binibeshatak syad ishad apetasya vipartyayo smritihi tanmayayato buddha abhajetam bhaktyai kayesham gurudeva tatma. When the living entity is attracted by the material energy, which is separate from Krishna, he is overpowered by fear. Because he is separated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the material energy, his conception of life is reversed. In other words, instead of being the eternal servant of Krishna, he becomes Krishna's competitor. This is called viparyayo smriti. To nullify this mistake, one who is actually learned and advanced worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his spiritual master, worshipful deity, and source of life. He thus worships the Lord by the process of unalloyed devotional service. Purport. This verse is quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam 11:2-37. Text 138. Daiviyesha gunamayi mamamaya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayametam tadantite. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Purport. This is a quotation from the Bhagavad Gita 7:14, text 139. One does not attain liberation without rendering devotional service. Liberation is attained only by devotional service. Text 140. Shriyat shritim bhakti mudasya te vibo klishyanti te kevalabodha labdaye te sham asau kleshala eva shishyate nanyad yata stula tushavakadinam. My dear Lord, devotional service under you is the only auspicious path. If one gives it up simply for speculative knowledge, or for the understanding that these living beings are spirit souls and the material world is false, he undergoes a great deal of trouble. He only gains troublesome and inauspicious activities. His actions are like beating a husk that is already devoid of rice. His labor becomes fruitless. Purport. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-4. Text 141. Yen ye ravindaksha vimukti maninas tvayasta bhavad avishuddha buddhayaha aruya krichtrena padam tatat padantyado nadvita yushman angrayaha. O lotus-eyed one, those who think they are liberated in this life, but are without devotional service to you, are of impure intelligence. Although they accept severe austerities and penances to rise to the spiritual platform, to impersonal Brahman realization, they fall down again because they neglect to worship your lotus feet. Purport. This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:2-32, quoted twice in just a few verses. Text 142. If one simply maintains an official position in the four varnas and ashramas, but does not worship the Supreme Lord Vishnu, he falls down from his puffed up position into a hellish condition. Purport. This is also a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.3, 143. When one is actually liberated by executing devotional service, he always engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. 144. Even a liberated soul, merged in the impersonal Brahman effulgence, is attracted to the pastimes of Krishna. He thus installs a deity and renders the Lord's service. This is a quotation from Shankaracharya's commentary on the Nishinga Tapani Upanishad. Whoa, even Shankaracharya admits it. Text 145. These 6 kinds of Atmaramas engage in the loving service of Krishna. The varieties of service are indicated by adding the words cha and api, indeed. Purport. There are 6 kinds of Atmaramas. The neophyte student, sadhaka, one who is absorbed in Brahman realization, Brahmamaya, one who has already attained the Brahman position, Prapta Brahmalaya, one who desires to be liberated, Mumukshu, one who is liberated even in this life, Jivan Mukta, and one who is self-realized, Prapta Sarupa. Text 146. The 6 kinds of Atmaramas render devotional service to Krishna without ulterior motives. Shall I read that again? It's okay? Okay. All right. The 6 kinds of Atmaramas render devotional service to Krishna without ulterior motives. The words Muniyak and Shanta indicate those who are very much attached to meditating upon Krishna. 147. The word Nirgranta means without ignorance and devoid of rules and regulations. Whichever meaning fits may be applied. 148. The use of the word cha in different places produces different meanings. Over and above them, there is another meaning that is very important. 149. Although the words Atmaramas cha would be repeated 6 times, simply by adding the word cha, 5 Atmaramas are deleted. What? Text 150. Therefore, there is no need to repeat the word Atmarama. One is sufficient, and that one word indicates 6 persons. 151. Of words having the same form and case termination, the last one is the only one retained. For example, the word Ramaha is used to stand for Ramascha, 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 etc. Purport. This is a quotation from Panini's Sutras 1264. 152. By the aggregate use of the word cha, it is indicated that all the Atmaramas and saints serve and worship Krishna. 153. Api, added to the word nirgrantaha, is used for exposition. Thus, I have tried to clarify 7 meanings of the Atmarama verse. Text 154. The yogi who worships the super soul within himself is also called Atmarama. There are 2 types of Atmarama yogis. 155. The 2 types of Atmarama yogis are called Sagarbha and Nigarbha. Each of these is divided into 3. Therefore, there are 6 types of worshippers of the super soul. Purport. The word Sugarbha yogi refers to a yogi who worships the super soul in the Vishnu form. The Nirgarbha yogi worships the Supersoul without form. The Sagarbha and Nigarbha yogis are further categorized. 1. Sagarbha Yoga Rurukshu. 2. Nigarbha Yoga Rurukshu. 3. Sagarbha Yoga Ruda. 4. Nigarbha Yoga Ruda. 5. Sagarbha Prapta Siddhi. And 6. Nigarbha Prapta Siddhi. Text 156. Some yogis think of the Lord within their hearts as measuring about 6 inches. The Lord has 4 hands in which he holds a conch shell, club, disc, and lotus flower. Those who worship this form of Vishnu within the heart are called Sagarbha yogis. This verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam 228. Text 157. When one is in ecstatic love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's heart is melted by Bhakti Yoga, and one feels transcendental bliss. There are bodily symptoms manifest, and due to eagerness, there are tears in the eyes. Thus one is subjected to spiritual bliss. Subjected to spiritual bliss. When the heart is overly afflicted, the meditative mind, like a fishing hook, is gradually separated from the object of meditation. Purport. This is also a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 3:28, 34, 158. By these 3 divisions of advancement in yoga, Yoga Rurukshu, Yoga Ruda, and Prapta Siddhi, there are 6 kinds of mystic yogis. Text 159. Arukshur Munir Yogam Karma Karanamuchite Yoga Ruda Sita Shaiva Shamak Karanamuchite. For those saintly persons who wish to rise to the platform of yogic perfection, the means consists of practicing the yoga system by very strictly following its regulated principles, and by practicing the yoga postures and breathing exercises. And for those who are already elevated to this platform, the means consists of maintaining mental equilibrium, shama, by rejecting all material activity and practicing meditation to keep the mind on the Supreme Lord. Purport. Text 159 and 160 from Bhagavad Gita 6, 3, and 4. Interesting translations by Prabhupada. Text 160. Yada hi nindriyarteshu na karma sanusajjate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga rudas tadochite. When a person is no longer interested in acting for sense gratification, and when he renounces all material desires, he is said to be situated in perfect yoga, yoga ruda. When a purified yogi associates with devotees, he engages in Lord Krishna's devotional service by being attracted by the Lord's transcendental qualities. Text 162. The meanings of the word cha and api can be applied here. The meaning of the words muni and nirgranta are the same as before. Text 163. The word ahaituki is always applicable to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Urukrama. In this way I've described 13 complete meanings of the Ätmäräma verse, and he's just getting started. Remember, he's going to do 61 meanings, and he's only done 13 complete meanings so far. Only one thing can happen to us when we read this. We become gobsmacked. Purport. The 13 meanings of the Ätmäräma verse mentioned here are based on the following meanings for the word Ätmäräma. 1. Sadhaka, the neophyte performer. 2. Brahmamaya, one absorbed in the thought of impersonal Brahman. 3. Prapta Brahmalaya, one who has actually attained Brahman perfection. 4. Mumukshu, one who desires liberation. 5. Jivan Mukta, one who is liberated in this life. 6. Prapta Sarupa, one who has attained his original constitutional position. 7. Nirgrantha Muni, a completely liberated saint. 8. Sagarbha Yoga Rurukshu, a yogi meditating upon the four-handed Vishnu form and desiring yogic perfection. 9. Nirgarbha Yoga Rurukshu, one who is trying for perfection in impersonal meditation. 10. Sagarbha Yoga Ruda, one who has been elevated to the platform of yogic perfection by meditating on the Vishnu form. 11. Nigarbha Yoga Ruda, an impersonal yogi on the platform of perfection. 12. Sagarbha Prapta Siddhi, one who has attained the perfectional stage by meditating on the Vishnu form. 13. Nirgarbha Prapta Siddhi, one who has attained perfection by practicing impersonal meditation. Text 164. These 13 types of yogis and munis are called Shanta Bhaktas, for they render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the neutral stage. Somebody asked me a question the other day about Shanta Bhakti, or Shanta Rasa. So there is a very elaborate description in the purport before this one of the meaning of Shanta Bhakta. Text 175. The word Atma sometimes means the mind. In this case, the word Ätmäräma means a person who is satisfied by mental speculation. When such a person associates with a pure devotee, he takes to devotional service at the lotus feet of Krishna. 166. Those who follow the path of great saintly mystic yogis take to the yogic gymnastic process and begin worshipping from the abdomen, where it is said that Brahman is located. Such people are called Sharkaraksha, which means that they are situated in the gross bodily conception. Sharkaraksha. There are also followers of the Rishi, known as Aruna. Following his path, they observe the activities of the arteries. Thus they gradually rise to the heart, where subtle Brahman, Paramatma, is situated. They then worship him. O unlimited Ananta, better than these persons are the mystic yogis who worship you from the top of their heads. Beginning with the abdomen and proceeding through the heart, they reach the top of the head and pass through the Brahmarandra, the hole at the top of the skull. Thus, these yogis attain the perfectional platform and do not enter the cycle of birth and death again. What a verse! This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:87-18. No wonder, spoken by the personified Vedas. Text 167. Being attracted by the transcendental qualities of Krishna, such yogis become great saints. At that time, not being hampered by the yogic process, they engage in unalloyed devotional service. Text 168. Atma also means endeavor. Being attracted by Krishna's transcendental qualities, some saints make a great endeavor to come to the point of rendering service to him. 169. Tasyaiva heto padayeta kovido nalabhyate yad brahmatam uparyadaha Talabhyate dukkavad anyatak sukham. Kalena sarvatra gabirda ramasa. The transcendental position cannot be attained by wandering up and down from Brahmaloka or Satyaloka to Pataloka. If one is actually intelligent and learned, he should endeavor for that rare transcendental position. By the force of time, one attains whatever material happiness is available within the 14 worlds, just as one attains distress in due course of time. But since spiritual consciousness is not attained in this way, one should try for it. Purport. This verse was spoken by Narada Muni in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.18. Narada Muni was speaking to Vyasadeva, who was morose even after he had compiled all the Vedic literatures. In this connection, Narada Muni advised Srila Vyasadeva to try to attain devotional service and nothing else. Text 170. Those who are eager to awaken their spiritual consciousness and those who have unflinching, undeviated intelligence certainly attain the desired goal of life very soon. Purport. This is a quotation from the Naradiya Purana. Text 177. The word cha may be used in place of a p, which gives emphasis to something. Thus it means that without sincere endeavor in devotional service, one cannot attain love of Godhead. 172. Devotional perfection is very difficult to attain for two reasons. First, unless one is attached to Krishna, he cannot attain devotional perfection even if he renders devotional service for a long time. Second, Krishna does not easily deliver perfection in devotional service. Purport. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 5.6.18, Muktim Didhati Karachit. Srila Shukadev Goswami told Maharaj Parikshit that Krishna readily grants liberation, but does not very readily grant perfection in devotional service. This means that Krishna wants to see that a devotee is actually sincere and serious, and that he does not have ulterior motives. If this is the case, devotional service can very easily be successful. Otherwise, it is very, very difficult to obtain from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This verse appears in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.135. This is an extremely important point. If simply one gives up ulterior motives, he can easily be successful in devotional service. By trying to serve Krishna without ulterior motives, means without wanting something for oneself, some other goal. Sixth, text 173. Tesham satati yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. This is purport. This is a quotation from the Bhagavad Gita 10.10. For an explanation, see Adi-lila 149. What a scholar Prabhupada was, huh? What a scholar. Text 174. Another meaning of Atma is driti, or endurance. A person who endeavors with endurance is Ätmäräma. With endurance, such a person engages in devotional service. 175. The word muni also means bird and bumblebee. The word nirgranta refers to a foolish person. By the mercy of Krishna, such creatures contact a sadhu, spiritual master, and thus engage in devotional service. Text 176. My dear mother, in the forest, all the birds, after rising on the beautiful branches of the trees, are closing their eyes and not being attracted by any other sound, are simply listening to the vibration of Krishna's flute. Such birds must be on the same level as great saints. Purport. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:21-14. This statement was made by the gopis who were lamenting in separation from Krishna and studying how the inhabitants of Vrindavan were enjoying life like saintly persons. Text 177. O good fortune personified, O original personality of Godhead, all these bees are chanting about your transcendental fame, which will purify the entire universe. Indeed, they are following your path in the forest and are worshipping you. Actually, they are all saintly persons, but now they have taken the form of bees. Although you are playing like a human being, they could not forget that you are their worshipable deity. Purport. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:15-6. Krishna and Balaram were just on the verge of boyhood and were entering the forest of Vrindavan when Krishna began to offer prayers to please Balaram. 178. All the cranes and swans in the water are being enchanted by the melodious sound of Krishna's flute. All the cranes and swans in the water are being enchanted by the melodious song of Krishna's flute. They have approached and are worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead with full attention. Alas, they are closing their eyes and are becoming completely silent. Purport. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:35-11. In the day, Krishna went to the forest of Vrindavan, and at that time the gopis, being morose due to separation from him, were lamenting in this way. Text 179. Kiratas, Hunas, Andhras, Pulindas, Pokashas, Abhiras, Shumbas, Yavanas, and members of the Kasa races. That should be Pulkashas, no? Let's see. Pulkashas. Pulkashas. No? Pulkashas. Okay. And even others who are addicted to sinful acts can be purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord, due to his being the supreme power. I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Purport. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:2-4:18. This verse was spoken by Shukadev Goswami when Parikshit Maharaj asked him for a description of the creation. While offering obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shukadev Goswami described the unlimited potencies of Lord Vishnu, who can purify the low-born creatures mentioned here. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Everywhere I want to stop, it's in the middle of these wonderful descriptions, but it's 8 o'clock and I have to stop. So, if there are any reflections or comments or discussion, please be our guest. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
There's a question from Sudevi Dasi.
Hare Krishna, Sudevi Dasi.
She says, we heard that the only way to attain liberation is to do devotional service. I heard also that we liberate many generations of our family by our devotional service. Can our loved ones attain liberation by our service and not theirs, or does their liberation mean that they will be put in a most favorable position in their next life to do devotional service?
It can be either. It depends on the level of Krishna consciousness we've attained. It's not a hard and fast rule. It's a rule that applies differently to different persons. But one could say that if you become a pure devotee and generations before you, those who were connected to you by the process of birth and in that bloodline, that they attain liberation, that they obtain a situation where they can perform devotional service. Because devotional service is not different than liberation. That's one way of looking at it. As we are learning by reading this chapter, there's many ways of looking at it. Yes, but however you look at it, the person who's close to you or has had a blood family relationship with you in previous lives and in future lives to a certain number of generations, if you become an absolutely pure devotee of Krishna, they all become devotees, one way or another. Either they take a birth that they can, perform devotional service, which is most likely, or they go back to Krishna directly, depending on their individual positions. Hare Krishna.
Next is something from Rati Manjari.
Hare Krishna, Rati.
She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Tonight we heard about the importance of serving Krishna without ulterior motive, of wanting to get something for oneself in return. My question, which I guess I have asked before, but which I hope you would care to answer again because it is still going around in my mind and heart, is the desire to go back home. Is the desire to go back home, back to Godhead, considered as an ulterior motive?
No. I'm giving you a one-word answer because that's the easiest way to understand it. The desire to go back home, back to God, it is not an ulterior motive. Because going back to God, it means to please Krishna. If a person wants to go back to Godhead sincerely, then that means he's free from ulterior motives. Even the desire to advance in devotional service is not an ulterior motive. Ulterior motive means for material perfection or material profit, or the profit of my family or my country or my extended self, materially. But the desire to help others come back to Godhead, that's not an ulterior motive. The desire to go back and play with Krishna, that's not an ulterior motive. Because that pleases Krishna most. Okay? Hare Krishna.
Rati Manjari says Haribol.
Haribol.
From Bhakta Ben.
Haribol Bhakta Ben, the master asker.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Jai Ho.
Is it practical to partake in the marathon without the ulterior motive of trying to win? I'm at the neophyte level and the desire to win is driving me to give it everything I have, which has the side effect of pleasing my authorities. Your passionate servant, Bhaktaben.
I think that's called dovetailing. It's not completely without ulterior motives if you want to win, but it's dovetailed in Krishna's service because it's very pleasing to your spiritual master and to the Vaishnavas, and therefore it wouldn't be considered a serious ulterior motive. Hare Krishna.
There's a comment here from Karen.
There's a comment from Karen. Hare Krishna.
She says, please accept my humble obeisances from Karen in Kentucky. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Karen in Kentucky. Welcome aboard.
Rati Manjari says, thank you for your simple and clear answer. Sudevi Dasi has a comment.
Yeah.
She says, my question is similar than that of Rati Prabhu. I have an ulterior motive also, and it is to liberate my family. Thank you, you answered my question.
You're welcome. The pleasure is always mine.
And something more from Rati Manjari. She says, I understand it better now. The only side thing which I would still like to ask is what if one desires to go back home, back to Godhead, also because one is tired of suffering here?
It's okay. It's okay to want to go back to Godhead. The purpose of life is to go back to Godhead. But we follow the order of Lord Chaitanya and try to take as many people back with us as possible. And then if Krishna wants us to come back as a mission to deliver others, so be it.
She says, would that be a mixed desire for liberation?
No. The devotee's not interested in liberation. We've heard about this in about 950,000 million ways in this verse, in this chapter, I mean. Desire for liberation is a selfish liberation. Desire of liberation is just to get out of the suffering of material existence, but with no thought of Krishna. It's a oxymoron to want to go back and be with Krishna and take others with us. It is not a desire for liberation in a mundane sense. Liberation is contained within devotional service because automatically you are liberated. You're liberated before you leave the material world. The point is, we should come to the point of desiring only devotional service, because all other things will come with it. You don't need to desire liberation and desire this and desire that. If you sincerely desire to serve Krishna, then all those things will happen, and you'll experience the benefit of all those things. You'll experience the benefit of your relatives being liberated or whatever else. All desires are fulfilled and contained within the desire for devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Rati says, Jai, you are so kind to us and to me. Thank you very much. I am dull-headed and confused from all my lives of mental speculation and the influence of the impersonalists earlier in my life. Thanks for your kindness, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. We know all about that, all of us too. You can't be raised in this Western world at this time in history without being fully aware of that. Unless you're a two-legged animal, then you're not aware of anything. 'Tis folly to be wise, where ignorance is bliss. What else? That's it? Okay, it's breathtaking hearing how Lord Chaitanya puts all these different verses from the Bhagavatam and from the Gita and all the different dictionaries, and he's the supremely liberated, supremely knowledgeable person. It's overwhelming. I was thinking while I was reading that this is non-different from meditation. Just to be able to hear with rapt attention, that's why you are also merciful to me, because you're giving me the opportunity to read with fixed attention, to try to make it clear and to try to go as deep as I can. And it's not different than meditation. I have no memory whatsoever, Well, I have little memory, but not very much. But by hearing, you get everything immediately. You get the benefit, of having learned all these verses simply by hearing with rapt attention, submissively. It's amazing. Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. See you tomorrow night. Same place, same station, same topic. Hare Krishna.